The storm is returning to Fairmont Crest, and this week, no one is safe. What began as whispers behind closed doors is now spiraling into chaos that could destroy everything the Dupree family has built. Dani senses that something is deeply wrong with Naomi, and her mother's intuition tells her the truth she's too afraid to say out loud. Naomi might be carrying a secret that could change the family forever. Across town, the once unbreakable bond between Nicole and Vanessa begins to shatter, torn apart by jealousy, manipulation, and one dangerous man who thrives on their downfall. Meanwhile, Leslie's obsession with control pushes her toward a shocking confrontation with June, one that could end in tragedy. Donnell faces the ultimate temptation as a mysterious offer lures him toward power and corruption, while Shanice uncovers two secrets that could burn down Fairmont Crest from within. Every smile hides deceit, every promise masks betrayal, and every character stands on the edge of a personal collapse. As the walls of the mansion echo with lies and guilt, Beyond the Gates unleashes its darkest week yet, a haunting chapter where loyalty dies, truth bleeds, and everyone learns that once you step beyond the gates, there's no way back. The week begins at Fairmont Crest with the air heavy and still, as if the entire estate senses that something irreversible is about to unfold. For months, tension has simmered beneath the surface, hidden behind polite smiles and manicured gardens. Now, it's beginning to break. Dani stands at the center of it all, unknowingly about to face a truth that will shake her identity to its core. Naomi has been distant, her eyes tired, her words careful, her body language betraying something deeper than stress or confusion. Dani, always the sharp observer and protective mother, feels the shift before anyone else does. Memories of her own mistakes begin to flood back, the choices that once fractured her family and nearly destroyed her relationship with Jacob. Now she watches her daughter repeat those same patterns, and an unspoken question consumes her. What if Naomi's secret is more than emotional turmoil? What if it's a child, one that could forever bind her to someone she should have walked away from? The thought brings both dread and longing. Dani, once the proud matriarch who kept her family's legacy spotless, senses that the next generation might carry a stain she cannot cleanse. At the same time, the fragile friendship between Nicole and Vanessa implodes under the weight of pride and betrayal. They were once inseparable confidants who shielded each other from the venom of the Dupree social circle. But Joey has changed everything. His quiet charisma, his strategic manipulation, and his dangerous charm have divided them. Vanessa believes she's finally found a man who understands her loneliness. Nicole sees a predator exploiting her friend's vulnerability. The more she tries to save Vanessa, the deeper the cracks form. Behind closed doors, jealousy merges with fear, and what began as concern transforms into resentment. Every look, every word between them now carries accusation. Vanessa begins to suspect that Nicole isn't just judging her choices, she's envious of them. And Nicole, haunted by her own failures and love, sees in Vanessa's surrender to Joey the same weakness that once destroyed her. Their bond is collapsing, and Joey watches from the shadows, satisfied. A divided alliance is exactly what he needs to strengthen his hold on the estate and its most powerful women. Meanwhile, Leslie emerges from the quiet corners of Fairmont Crest like a ghost returning to reclaim what was hers. Her composure masks an unraveling storm within. She's spent years perfecting her control of men, of money, of secrets, but now June threatens that empire. Ted, the man Leslie once thought she could bend to her will, has grown close to June in ways that echo old wounds and forgotten betrayals. When Leslie learns of their growing intimacy, something inside her fractures. What she calls warning is in truth the first stage of obsession. June, for her, is not just a rival but a reminder of every woman who ever dared to challenge her dominance. Leslie tells herself it's about power, but beneath the anger lies fear of irrelevance, of being replaced, of losing the last person who once looked at her with admiration instead of pity. She will not lose again. Her moves are calculated, her words sharpened into weapons, and as the night deepens, she prepares to strike. What begins as a veiled warning will soon escalate into something much darker. Far from the glittering halls of Fairmont Crest, Donnell finds himself trapped between two versions of his soul. Once, he was the moral compass of the story, a man of integrity, loyal to the truth even when it cost him everything. But too much loss, too much betrayal, has left him vulnerable. Joey senses this and sends an emissary with an offer that sounds like salvation but smells like sin. Donnell is promised a second chance, wealth, power, even revenge, but the cost is his soul. The night he receives that offer, he stands by the lake where Doug's car once crashed, staring at the reflection of a man he no longer recognizes. The memory of his fallen friend burns in his mind. If he accepts Joey's hand, he could rise again. If he refuses, he risks being buried by the same system that betrayed him. It's not temptation he feels, it's exhaustion. He's tired of being the one who suffers for doing what's right. And so, when the call comes again, his silence becomes consent. Joey has claimed another pawn. Elsewhere, Shanice's world begins to collapse piece by piece. The two pieces of information she receives in this episode will mark a point of no return. The first is personal. Someone she trusted has been working against her, feeding her enemies the details of her private life. The second is professional, a file that exposes a scandal within the Crest Foundation, one that could destroy her reputation and everyone connected to her. She realizes that the walls she thought were protecting her have been built by those planning her downfall. The revelation leaves her trembling, isolated, and desperate for an ally, but there are none left. Even Danny, once her closest supporter, is too consumed by Naomi's secret to notice Shanice's silent cries. And so, for the first time, Shanice begins to consider the unthinkable, using the information she has not to defend herself, but to destroy everyone who betrayed her. The seed of revenge is planted, and by the time the credits roll, its roots have already begun to spread. As night falls over Fairmont Crest, the interconnected threads of deceit tighten. Naomi's secret continues to grow inside her, both literal and symbolic. Nicole and Vanessa are enemies pretending to be friends. Leslie is poised to commit an act she will never be able to undo. Donnell has just sold his conscience for a seat at the table. And Shanice, the one person who once believed in redemption, now toys with destruction. The episode ends not with chaos, but with silence, the kind that precedes the storm. The moon rises over the mansion, bathing its windows in pale light, while inside, every character stares at their own reflection, unaware that by the end of the week, none of them will recognize who they become. The following morning, the illusion of control begins to unravel. Danny wakes with the uneasy realization that her instincts were right. Naomi's evasive answers, the sudden nausea, the way she's been avoiding Jacob all point toward a truth Danny cannot ignore. But it isn't just the possibility of becoming a grandmother that terrifies her, it's the thought that Naomi's child could be tied to someone she despises. Whispers in the mansion hint at a forbidden relationship, one that could ruin the family's reputation if exposed. Danny's mind spirals through memories of her own youth, the secrecy, the judgment, the sacrifices. She knows exactly how this story ends because she's lived it before. The tragedy is not in what Naomi has done, but in the cycle repeating itself. Danny's world, built on appearances and control, begins to crumble from within. Vanessa, meanwhile, becomes the embodiment of denial. The conflict with Nicole festers into obsession. She replays their last confrontation over and over, convincing herself that she's the victim, that Joey truly loves her. But the audience sees what she refuses to. Joey's manipulation has deepened. He isolates her, flatters her, and subtly poisons her mind against everyone who cares for her. When Nicole tries to reach out again, Vanessa's response is pure venom. The friendship that once gave both women strength now becomes a battlefield of pride. By nightfall, Vanessa stands alone in the lavish emptiness of her living room, realizing too late that she's been replaced not just by Joey's next target, but in the social hierarchy of Fairmont Crest. Nicole, meanwhile, breaks down privately, aware that in trying to protect her friend, she may have lost her forever. Leslie's descent is far more chilling. The warning she gives June becomes a moment of reckoning. In her mind, it's not an act of cruelty but a declaration of ownership. She has spent her life fighting to be seen, to be feared, and when June refuses to back down, Leslie's control slips entirely. The confrontation spirals out of control, words turn into threats, and threats into physical rage. It happens too fast to stop. The aftermath is terrifying. June lies unconscious, blood seeping across the marble floor, while Leslie stands above her, trembling, horrified by what she's done. For a moment, silence engulfs the room. Then Leslie's survival instincts kick in. She cleans, hides, rearranges. The camera lingers on her shaking hands as she whispers to herself, rationalizing the accident. But the damage is irreversible. The Queen of Fairmont Crest has crossed the line from manipulation to murder. Donald's storyline darkens as well. After accepting Joey's offer, he finds himself deeper in the underworld than he ever imagined. He becomes the public face of a new business venture, a front for money laundering tied to the Crest Foundation. At first, the power feels intoxicating. The respect he lost begins to return. But soon, the moral weight crushes him. He starts to see the cost of his decisions and the suffering of others, yet every attempt to back out only tightens the noose. Joey doesn't need to threaten him, he owns him completely. Donnell, once a man of integrity, becomes a prisoner in his own success. By the end of the episode, he stands on the balcony of his penthouse, staring into the city lights, understanding that every choice he made was part of Joey's plan. Shanice, now armed with knowledge capable of destroying Fairmont Crest, chooses vengeance. She leaks part of the scandal to the press, targeting those who betrayed her. The fallout is immediate and catastrophic. Reputations collapse overnight. Trust evaporates. The entire Dupree empire begins to fracture under the weight of exposure. But what Shanice doesn't realize is that her revenge plays directly into Joey's long-term strategy. He thrives on chaos, and as the community turns against itself, he becomes the unseen ruler of the ashes. Shanice, thinking she's won, doesn't yet know she's merely cleared the board for him. As the episode closes, the camera moves through the corridors of Fairmont Crest, once symbols of wealth and security, now filled with echoes of guilt and fear. Danny sits alone, clutching a family photo, tears streaking down her face. Leslie hides behind her mirror, unable to recognize her reflection. Naomi whispers to her unborn child, promising a peace she cannot deliver. Vanessa drinks alone, lost in delusion. Donnell stares into the abyss, and Shanice watches the world burn, mistaking destruction for justice. The gates that once protected them now feel like prison bars. The audience is left with one haunting image, the Dupree mansion bathed in stormlight, thunder rumbling in the distance, signaling that the storm has only just begun. As the chaos settles into uneasy silence, the haunting beauty of Fairmont Crest feels more like a graveyard than a sanctuary. The lights from the mansion flicker through the night fog, illuminating faces that no longer resemble the people they once were. Danny stands alone by the window, her reflection fractured by raindrops. The truth she feared most has found her, and no amount of denial can protect her now. Naomi's secret is no longer just a rumor, it's a reality that threatens to unravel generations of reputation, power, and legacy. Danny, once the pillar of composure, now feels the walls closing in, realizing that motherhood cannot shield anyone from destiny's cruelty. Somewhere deep inside, she wonders whether she has failed as a mother or whether Fairmont Crest itself has cursed everyone who dares to love inside its gates. Vanessa, drained and broken, sits in the same empty room where her friendship with Nicole ended. The glass in her hand trembles as she replays Joey's words in her mind, not realizing that she's been part of his game all along. She traded truth for affection, friendship for illusion, and now all she has left is silence. Nicole, on the other hand, stands in the shadows of guilt, watching the empire she tried to protect burn from within. Their lives are parallel tragedies, two women bound by loyalty, destroyed by the same man, and unaware that their downfall has been orchestrated since the beginning. In another corner of the estate, Leslie washes the blood from her hands, both literally and metaphorically. Her eyes are hollow, her breathing shallow, as she convinces herself that what happened to June was an accident. But the mirror doesn't lie. The queen of manipulation has become the monster she once used fear to control. And as she hides the evidence of her crime, the thunder outside grows louder, echoing the chaos within her mind. She knows that once the truth surfaces, it won't just ruin her, it will expose the darkness of Fairmont Crest itself. Donald's soul darkens with each passing hour. The money, the influence, the illusion of redemption, all of it feels empty now. He's trapped in a web spun by Joey, a man who knows exactly how to exploit weakness and ambition. The more Donnell tries to reclaim his integrity, the deeper he falls into moral quicksand. He's beginning to understand that some deals can't be undone, and that every sin has its price. When he looks at the city below, shimmering under the rain, he doesn't see victory, he sees the reflection of a man who traded his peace for power. And finally, Shanice watches it all collapse, believing she's won. Her revenge has scorched Fairmont Crest, exposing lies and scandals that can never be buried again. But what she doesn't realize is that she's only accelerated the destruction Joey planned all along. He feeds on chaos, and now the entire community dances to his silent rhythm. Every feud, every betrayal, every secret is part of his masterpiece. As the episode fades to black, the storm outside reaches its peak. Lightning strikes across the sky, briefly illuminating the grand iron gates of Fairmont Crest, the same gates that once symbolized privilege, now standing as a warning. Inside, the characters sit in silence, each consumed by their own sins and secrets. The camera pans slowly over their faces, Naomi's tears, Danny's trembling hands, Leslie's haunted stare, Vanessa's despair, Donald's guilt, and Shanice's hollow triumph, until it stops at the crest of the family seal carved above the fireplace. The fire beneath it flickers weakly, as if struggling to stay alive. Then, with a final crack of thunder, the flame dies out. The screen fades to black, leaving viewers with one chilling message: beyond the gates, no secret stays buried forever.